This is chaos. This is uncertainty. I'm thinking about it as let them eat cake day on April 2nd rather than Liberation Day. President Trump was not voted in to raise prices, but that's what's going to happen. 90% of global trade is going to be affected by these tariffs. There is no clear plan for how to get Americans to buy American cars now. Where did that come from? Where's the legislation for that?
So this is what is an American-made car when so many foreign manufacturers here and so many parts come from other places.
Speech yesterday.
April 2nd, 2025 will forever be remembered as the day American industry was reborn, the day America's destiny was reclaimed, and the day that we began to make America wealthy again.
Wealth as well. I mean, when we look at what's been wiped off the U.S. stock markets today, so many Americans have their life savings and effective pension fund in those stock markets. How much pain do you think people will bear, or the president and the wealthy individuals around him will be able to bear as well?
Yeah, you know, Katrina, this is sort of like an economic war against the world and against the American people's pocketbooks. To your point, if President Trump is saying we're going to be made wealthy, well, let's first find how we can recoup those couple $1 trillion lost today on the markets that are directly going to impact Americans' retirement and long-term savings. And then you add to that the potential price shock of higher prices at stores, buying cars, getting groceries. It's a real major negative economic jolt to the American people. And so, you know, I think he has a lot of ground to make up now. It's one thing to announce from the Rose Garden a big new policy and shock the world. It's another thing to see it implemented effectively. And what are the plans for making sure that manufacturing does get onshore, does come here, that we have the dollars to invest here in the United States? And how long is that going to take? 1 year, 2 years, 5 years? There's really nothing laid out in what the president said. So he may want to take out punishment against the world, but in the near term, it's going to be punishment against the American people. And I think that's going to really shrink the kind of space, to your point, politically speaking, that he has. You know, you can't live in the near term forever when the near term is going to be very painful.
Doug, Joel, this was supposed to be the president that was going to bring down costs for voters and address the fact that life is very, very expensive. How is he going to sell this idea to consumers, do you think, that these are good measures even though they're going to feel some pain?
Well, he's going to sell it by saying we're already in the golden age now, and he's going to try to use whatever kind of rhetorical gymnastics he can to make people think that they're better off than they actually are. You know, look, when it comes to trade, Americans generally have been very skeptical of it, and we have not seen a trade deal go through in a number of years that has had strong support. I remember when I served in the Obama administration, the Trans-Pacific Partnership was blocked and did not move forward as an idea for a broad trade agreement. But so what's going to happen here is that instead of talking about trade, we're now going to talk about costs. We're now going to talk about pain. We're going to talk about stock market price volatility, and we're going to talk about pocketbook issues. And he just hasn't taken on inflation as an issue, and now he's adding to costs for regular Americans. And it's going to be very hard for him to talk ahead of the actual wallet experience of everyday Americans.
Regarding tariffs over the coming week.
Well, you know, Martine, I think the big question, per what Kimberly said a moment ago, is the retaliatory tariffs that are coming our way. The blowback, it's not going to be something that we'll see in a single press conference because there are 170 plus countries around the world that are going to be thinking about this, and 60 in particular. But we're going to see it, and we're going to see blowback. And I think for the American people, this is now going to be a question of what kind of response we will be making and communicating to our elected officials. You know, it's a very curious moment because from a political perspective, Democrats just had a big win on Tuesday night, cut into Donald Trump's margin in Florida, won in Wisconsin. He now enacts a tax policy, a tariff tax policy that's going to cost Americans right directly in their pocketbook. And then we're going to get more waves of hits from abroad. So I think the reaction is what we'll ultimately need to be looking at. But in the near term, these retaliatory tariffs, I think, are going to be very significant. And it's something we have to make sure we're watching very closely.